You step into a dim Stockholm alley on a misty evening in 1932, rain tapping cobblestones like nervous fingertips. Sirens wail in the distance, but the neighborhood known as Atlas is unusually still. A single lamp flickers above number 4 Corneliusgatan, where a grisly discovery will soon pull you and the entire city into a tale of blood, fear, and enduring mystery. Within the cramped apartment at the top of the stairs lies Lilly Lindeström, a soft-spoken waitress whose absence from work has gone unnoticed for 3 days. When a worried friend asks police to force the door, officers enter a scene that feels yanked from Gothic fiction. Lilly is sprawled face down on a neatly made bed. Her clothes are folded on a chair, a silk stocking still clinging to one leg as though caught mid-gesture. On the bedside table sits an ordinary soup ladle, its bowl coated in something dark and sticky. And here is the detail that chills even hardened investigators. Lilly's body has been completely drained of blood. You might wonder how anyone could empty a human body without leaving rivers of red evidence. The floor shows no pooling, and the bedding is strangely pristine. The only stain appears on the ladle. Was it used to drink from her, scoop by scoop? The newspapers will seize that image, branding the unknown killer the Atlas vampire. Yet, inside the station house, detectives wrestle with practical questions. Who had a key? When was she last alive? And what kind of person lingers long enough to perform so methodical a violation? Lilly's life seems painfully ordinary at first glance. She is 21, works evenings at a small cafe, and rents this modest room in a building favoured by single women working in the city. She enjoys dancing, laughs loudly at American comedies, and is known to entertain male friends. Police records call it casual companionship. The press calls it clandestine sex work, a label that conveniently paints her as a woman of dangerous liaisons. You can hear the subtext even now. An independent female victim must have invited trouble. But the case file tells a subtler story. Her finances are modest but stable. No signs of blackmail, no debts. Her diary lists appointments by initials only, a habit common to women who valued privacy in a gossip-hungry era. Investigators break those initials down methodically. Within 48 hours, they interview former lovers, co-workers, and fellow tenants. One man admits visiting Lilly on the night of April 30th, known in Sweden as Valborg, the spring festival when bonfires chase away winter spirits. He says they drank wine, listened to jazz on the radio, and parted around midnight. He notices nothing unusual. Another suitor claims he phoned her at 10, but she sounded distracted, as though someone else was in the room. Each account nudges the timeline forward, yet none explains the core horror. Whoever stayed after the last visitor must have carried no weapon larger than the ladle, because no knives, tubes, or medical tools are missing. Forensic science in 1932 is evolving, but still crude. Blood typing exists, but DNA identification is decades away. Detectives send the ladle and bedding to the National Laboratory where chemists confirm the residue is human blood, type O, matching Lilly's own. No foreign fingerprints appear, only smudges consistent with her small hands. The killer either wore gloves or wiped the surfaces clean. Neighbours report no screams, no struggle, only a faint thud around 2 in the morning that they dismiss as someone dropping shoes. Stockholm nights are noisy, and walls in this building are thick. You start to feel the frustration of those original officers. Every physical avenue dries up, so they turn to psychology. What kind of offender drains blood? Medical fetishist, occult practitioner? The term serial killer has not yet entered Swedish vocabulary, but detectives suspect the murder may not be unique. They review unsolved deaths in nearby counties, searching for similar indicators. None fit. Lilly's case stands alone, isolated, like a single dark star in a clear sky. Meanwhile, the tabloids have no intention of waiting for answers. Headlines scream, "Vampire strikes in Atlas district." Readers devour lurid sketches of a caped figure prowling rooftops, clutching a dripping ladle. Street vendors hawk novelty garlic bracelets. Mothers warn children to be indoors before sunset, and police foot patrols are doubled. Fear is contagious, and the media knows it. You can picture late-night conversations in cramped apartments, voices lowered as residents measure superstition against the rational image Sweden likes to project. Behind closed doors, detectives confront a simpler reality. A vampire angle might sell papers, but the essential act is power over a victim who cannot fight back. Blood becomes a trophy. In modern criminology, we call this paraphilic sadism. In 1932, the language is more restrained, a pathological desire. Investigators consult Stockholm General Hospital, hoping for records of patients obsessed with blood. The hospital produces a short list. One individual, a 33-year-old butcher's assistant known for erratic behavior, draws particular interest. He disappears from work the day after the murder, resurfacing a week later with an implausible story about visiting cousins in Uppsala. Police interrogate him for hours. He denies ever meeting Lilly and offers alibis for the night in question, confirmed by his sister. No physical evidence links him to the scene. The file labels him Person of Interest 1, then quietly sets him aside. Another candidate emerges from Lilly's own phone bills. A frequent caller, listed as MM, turns out to be a traveling salesman who supplies cosmetics to the cafe where Lilly waits tables. He admits romantic involvement, claims she occasionally role-played exotic scenarios during intimacy, and mentions her fascination with vampire films imported from Germany. He swears the blood ritual was fantasy only, not something they attempted. Police seize his belongings, finding no blood-stained clothing. Once again, the trail ends in dust. Weeks pass, and public attention wanders. An economic downturn claims headlines, and the Atlas vampire slips from front pages to whispered legend. The official investigation remains open, but manpower shifts elsewhere. Evidence boxes move to a basement archive where humidity warps photographs and erases ink notes. By 1940, only a single detective still reviews the case on his own time. He writes a memo theorizing two offenders. One who killed Lilly, another who drained her post-mortem. Perhaps a morbid friend frightened into silence. The memo gathers dust until misplaced entirely. Now, nearly a century later, you have the advantage of hindsight and modern forensic insight. Could fresh technology crack the Atlas vampire mystery if the evidence had survived? Consider luminol testing, which would reveal even the faintest blood traces on the apartment floorboards. Imagine DNA swabs on the ladle's handle, cross-checked against national databases. Think about digital forensics reconstructing phone calls and bank records. Yet none of these existed for Lilly. The best tool available was human intuition, and intuition can be seduced by spectacle. Let's sift the theories one at a time. First, the literal vampire, a killer who drinks blood for sustenance or ritual. Modern psychiatry acknowledges clinical vampirism, a rare but documented paraphilia. Such offenders often begin by cutting themselves or willing partners, escalating over time. If Lilly's killer belonged to this profile, he might have stalked hospitals or morgues after her murder, seeking fresh sources. Yet archival searches reveal no cluster of drained bodies. The absence of repetition weakens the vampirism theory. Second, the practical murderer, someone who killed for personal motives, jealousy, financial dispute, rejection, and staged the blood draining to mislead investigators. This concept fits the neat room, the folded clothing, the single weapon left behind. A ladle is theatrical, almost taunting. By exaggerating the bizarre, the killer buys time as police chase supernatural shadows. Still, staging requires knowledge of how bodies bleed. An amateur might expect fountains. In reality, post-mortem drainage demands deliberate incisions and patience. Did any suspect possess anatomical training? The butcher's assistant returns to the spotlight under this lens, his professional familiarity with carcasses now more compelling than ever. Third, the accidental death scenario. Suppose Lilly and a partner engaged in consensual erotic bloodletting that went horribly wrong. Panic follows, accompanied by a desperate cleanup. The partner, terrified of manslaughter charges and social condemnation, empties the body to remove evidence of underlying substances, perhaps alcohol poisoning or illicit drugs, before fleeing. This angle explains the lack of struggle marks and the careful positioning of objects. However, it fails to clarify why the blood itself was left in open view on the ladle instead of being fully discarded. Each theory circles back to evidence long lost. You can feel the ache of unresolved questions, as though the case itself is feeding on uncertainty. And maybe that is why the Atlas vampire endures. When facts fade, narrative thrives, filling gaps with whatever society fears most at the moment. In the 1930s, Sweden wrestled with modernity clashing against folklore. Today, we confront other anxieties: anonymous online predators, genetic privacy, institutional failure. The vampire adapts, wearing new disguises, still unsolved. So where does that leave you, the modern listener? Perhaps with a renewed respect for the fragility of truth. A single misplaced report, a smudged fingerprint, can condemn generations to speculation. The next time you scroll past a sensational headline promising monstrous deeds, ask yourself which detail might be exaggeration, which might be the overlooked key. And remember Lilly Lindeström, whose ordinary life became extraordinary only in death. Picture the final moment of that April night. The window is cracked open to let spring air scent the room. A radio plays faint swing music. Lilly laughs at something private, unaware of danger blooming behind her. In seconds, laughter turns to shock, then silence. The killer moves with chilling confidence, folding her skirt, adjusting a stocking, selecting a kitchen ladle as though choosing cutlery for supper. There is no rush. Outside, the city celebrates Valborg, fireworks masking the faint creak of bed springs. When morning light finally filters through curtains, it illuminates a tableau staged to haunt history. You now hold the story. What will you do with it? Will you repeat the vampire legend unchanged, feeding the appetite for sensational horror? Or will you honor Lilly by emphasizing the investigative failures that denied her justice? Your choice shapes how this narrative travels into the next century. Either way, when you find yourself walking a quiet street just after rain and a solitary lamp flickers overhead, spare a thought for the woman in Atlas whose blood vanished but whose mystery remains. Some questions echo longer than lifetimes, and some nights, if you listen closely, you might imagine the faint clink of a ladle against glass, reminding you that truth, like blood, can be siphoned away, leaving only an empty shell and a story hungry for answers. Let the final takeaway settle in your mind. Every cold case is a library of what-ifs waiting for a curious reader. If evidence sleeps, curiosity must stay awake. You may never wear a detective's badge, but you are still a custodian of memory. By retelling Lilly's story with nuance rather than sensation, you refuse to let her become just another headline from a yellowed archive. You prove that empathy has a longer shelf life than fear, and perhaps, someday, empathy will pull the Atlas vampire into the light, unmasking a killer who once trusted darkness to keep it secret.